Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Boynton, and I am a Senior Project Manager with the U.S. Department of the Interior's International Technical Assistance Program, or ITAP for short. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today to talk a little bit about my office and our Ambassadors Water Experts program in hopes of providing you with an exciting and cost-effective tool for short-term advisory support on water. As fair warning, we've got a lot of ground to cover in a fairly short amount of time, so we're going to plan to take questions at the end, and we will send around the slide deck as well as the session recording and some other materials after today's presentation. With the first few minutes, we wanted to quickly share an ITAP overview for those of you who may not have worked with us in the past. We would also appreciate if you can go ahead and put your names and your duty stations in the chat so we can know who is here with us today. Excellent. So ITAP, located within the U.S. Department of the Interior's Office of International Affairs, provides technical assistance and project management support to partners overseas on subjects related to DOI's natural and cultural resource management mission. Our typical program brings together experts from across DOI's technical bureaus and offices to engage on issues of critical importance to foreign policy and international security. We receive all of our funding from outside sources, primarily the U.S. Department of State and USAID, which allows us to be very flexible and adaptable to the shifting needs of our international partners. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see some of those technical bureaus and offices that I mentioned. Some will probably be pretty familiar to you, things like the U.S. Geological Survey, National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, et cetera. On this slide, you can see some of the issue areas that we cover, whether it's energy or wildlife conservation, water, indigenous engagement. DOI 70,000 plus employees are equipped with the experience and expertise necessary to deliver transformational technical support while building meaningful government-to-government relationships that extend far beyond a single project. Since 1995, ITAP has delivered technical assistance in more than 70 countries around the world. We are organized into 4 regional teams and use cross-sector collaboration to tackle complex natural and cultural resource management challenges and deliver new and exciting programs every year. If you want to learn more about ITAP, we'd be happy to connect you with any of the team leads listed here on the slide, or you can check out our website at www.doi.gov/ITAP. We also have a Facebook page, and that will be linked on the last slide. So feel free to check it out after we send these around. Great. With that out of the way, I would like to shift gears and talk a little bit about the Ambassadors Water Experts Program, or AWEP. Let's start with the obvious question. What is AWEP? The Ambassadors Water Experts Program, launched in 2018, is a partnership between the U.S. Department of the Interior and the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs to deliver short-term technical assistance on all things water. Often referred to as our Hydrologists Without Borders program, we provide support to the U.S. Global Water Strategy at the request of foreign counterparts in collaboration with U.S. embassies and consulates. AWEP engagements can be broken down into 3 rough phases. The first is the proposal, where POST submits a request for technical assistance on a water-related subject. The second is recruitment, where we reach out to our ever-expanding network of experts, both inside and outside of the U.S. government, and identify the best 1 or 2 candidates for POST review and approval. The third and final phase is delivery, where the AWEP team organizes up to 2 weeks of travel, while the U.S. Embassy works with the experts' international counterparts to finalize and deliver assistance. All of this takes place over a period of somewhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on the project. Over the past 5 years, AWEP has partnered with more than 20 countries to provide targeted water assistance, with new programs kicking off nearly every month. I share the portfolio with my AWEP co-lead, Claire Shields, who covers our programs in Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. Countries that are eligible to receive economic support funds are generally also eligible to receive AWEP support, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns about eligibility. We are also able to deliver multi-country or regional assistance depending on the specific need. As you can see from the map, we haven't been as engaged in Eastern Africa due to limited bandwidth and awareness at post, but we are very eager to provide support as we see increasing water security concerns. We also have a lot of, this list here is to give you a sense of just some of the topics we've developed assistance for in the past. AWEP is designed to be flexible and respond to complex, time-sensitive water challenges. So as long as there is a freshwater nexus or an angle to a request, it's likely we can provide support. After all, we recognize that safe and consistent access to clean drinking water is key to solving health, food security, energy, among many other challenges. And recognizing that all of these terms here might be somewhat technical, please understand you do not need to be a technical expert to submit a request. You can tell us sort of the most basic information you have about our water issue, and we can sort of match it up to one of these more technical areas of operations in terms of our ability to go and find experts. So we do also have a lot of flexibility in terms of how we deliver support. Here are just a few examples of the types of experts and technical assistance tools we have available. While the program was originally designed around in-person collaboration, which we still consider the most effective way to build relationships, we have also provided virtual support where conditions do not allow for travel. This was particularly useful during the coronavirus pandemic, but we do continue to use it in countries like Syria, where the security concerns outweigh the potential benefit. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that later. To make things a little bit more real, we wanted to provide some brief examples of recent and ongoing AWEP programs. The first slide here is an example of a fully in-person engagement from last spring, where we deployed 2 experts to Tunisia to provide support on wastewater reuse and water recycling for agriculture. The experts were recommended to us by post, actually, one policy lead from USAID and one technical lead from DOE. The request originated from the Tunisian government, specifically the Tunisian National Office of Sanitation and the Ministry of Agriculture. The team spent just shy of 2 weeks on the ground, meeting with a variety of different stakeholders on wastewater challenges, including different ministries, research centers, other US government programs, and international partners like Germany. They also traveled to multiple wastewater treatment plants and pilot sites for reuse programs to assess the current situation. You can see some photos from the trip on the right. Once the team returned to the US, they developed 2 summary reports, one designed to be internal and one designed to be external, on existing wastewater practices and the potential for future wastewater reuse, including recommendations for leveraging other US government programs to provide further technical support. Our second example is an entirely virtual program providing technical assistance on regional water sharing and groundwater management to separately controlled Northeast and Northwest Syria at the request of non-government partners and the US Syrian Regional Platform. In the photos on the right, you can see 2 maps. The one on the top left shows who is in control of each of the regions, with the US and Turkish aligned forces largely in the purple and green sections, whereas the Syrian regime maintains control of the red areas. In the bottom right, the map shows the distribution of wells, with the greatest concentration of wells and reliance on groundwater in the Northeast and Northwest regions, respectively. The reason for keeping this program virtual is probably pretty obvious, but includes things like the unstable security situation, the inability to access relevant sites, and the significant risks posed to participants for engaging with the US government. On the left side, you'll see that this program also has a pretty interesting structure, where we'll first do separate technical training sessions with each region in late February, and then we're going to have a final workshop in early March designed to bring together both groups for collaborative discussion on shared water challenges. The experts, who are 2 private sector hydrogeologists, will conclude the program with a final report that summarizes the findings from all 3 sections or sessions and highlighting areas for future engagement. The final example is one of our hybrid AWEP programs. This was actually our third AWEP with Uzbekistan, which goes to show that we really do go out of our way to try to provide follow-up and continuity where we can. The first half of this program was actually virtual, where we recruited water experts on water quality policy from the US EPA and a groundwater quality management specialist from the US Geological Survey to deliver technical presentations and training to stakeholders from the government of Uzbekistan, as well as some local partner organizations. As you can see from the photos, we delivered presentations every 2 weeks from mid-May through mid-June, and the slides were all translated into both Russian and Uzbek. We also had simultaneous interpretation in both languages during the sessions. This virtual phase allowed us to really drill down on what the counterparts were most interested in and gather a variety of research questions, which helped us inform the in-person program. The focus ended up being the intersection between transboundary water quality management and health outcomes, particularly for vulnerable populations, which wasn't necessarily in the original ask, but something that kind of popped up as a recurring question or theme throughout these presentations. So fast forward about 4 months, which was delayed slightly by the potential lapse in appropriations. Our experts finally arrive in Uzbekistan. The general trip plan was to spend a few days in the capital of Tashkent for initial consultations before engaging Uzbek authorities and civil society organizations at a conference on children's health. After that, the experts traveled to the autonomous region of Karakol, Pakistan, to participate in a university workshop and discuss challenges with regional leadership. The team then returned to Tashkent for public diplomacy activities as well as a security outbrief. The two experts are now finalizing their assessment and trip report with the embassy. So if this is all sounding too good to be true, this slide is here to tell you, wait, there's more. So you'll see from the graphic that the AWEP cost coverage model basically says AWEP pays for all the programmatic costs. We cover travel, modest honoraria for our non-USG experts, translation fees, workshop supplies, and access to ZoomGov's simultaneous interpretation video conference platform. The only things we can't cover are expert salaries, durable equipment, think things like microscopes for a lab, long-term software licenses, and travel costs for non-experts. On the bright side, we also don't really expect post to cover these things and are typically able to design programs that would avoid incurring these types of costs. That's not to say that you're entirely off the hook, though. We do expect post to be directly involved in the program design and delivery, generally serving as the primary liaison between the US team and the foreign counterparts. Hosts typically take the lead on in-country coordination and logistics on the ground. So once a team is in country, we're often looking to post to help sort of facilitate the program assignment from that point forward. Again, we are happy to provide funding to post to procure any necessary services through a fund site. So it's just the time commitment, but we know that can still be really tough on you guys' busy schedules. We do also give Post the opportunity to sign off on any reports and final deliverables, recognizing that you guys are really the experts in seeing what's happening on the ground, not us. To attempt to put all of these steps on a rough timeline, here is what a fairly aggressive 12-week program might look like. Weeks 1 through 3 are typically focused on refining the proposal. Weeks 4 through 6 are for recruitment. Weeks 7 through 10 are working with the experts and in-country counterparts to finalize a program. And weeks 11 and 12 are delivery. We typically experience the greatest delays in this development phase, either due to travel documents taking longer than anticipated or tracking down unresponsive in-country partners. So to summarize, why should you choose an AWEP to support your water diplomacy objectives? We are able to provide tailored expertise and a flexible delivery model on an extremely responsive timeline. If you have even the vaguest idea of the assistance you're looking for, we're happy to schedule a call to workshop a proposal with you and help make it happen. I really want to stress that you do not need to be a water expert to request an AWEP. We are happy to help. That said, we know from experience that AWEP is not always a perfect fit, even if we'll still try to help. Some examples. If you need a larger team or experts from more than a few disciplines, we may not be able to support an in-person program. That said, virtual support may still be possible. We've done programs in countries like Brazil where we've had multiple teams of 3 or 4 different experts able to participate virtually, and that's manageable so long as we can ensure that it's cost effective, that we don't need to, pay significant stipend agreements for each of those experts. Similarly, if you expect to need a significant amount of in-country time for design or delivery, we would probably need to split the program into multiple phases, and there's never a guarantee that we'll be able to support future phases. So we would sort of break it down into here's what we can do as part of phase 1 and wrap that up, tie it with a bow, and then look at, okay, do we have bandwidth? Do we have the experts to move forward to phase 2? But given that we accept all of these applications on a rolling basis, it might be that there are other competing priorities at the point that we would be ready to move forward with a phase 2 or phase 3, et cetera. Lastly, if you have specific experts in mind that you know will need salary reimbursement, we likely won't be able to support the program, unfortunately. We may instead try to point you in the direction of other programs if we're aware of any that would be a good fit. We may also still be able to provide some niche support in parallel with a more appropriate program, but we wouldn't be able to make any promises until we see a proposal. Now that you're hopefully excited about the program and the support we can offer, we wanted to quickly walk you through the application process in a little bit more detail. As we mentioned earlier, an application starts with posts identifying a water issue in collaboration with local partners, either within the government or outside. Sometimes the AWEP team will meet with posts to make sure an issue is appropriate for an AWEP, but it's not really required and doesn't impact an application's ability to get approved. It's purely for your benefit. Once ready, Post drafts and submits the application either via a very brief, I promise, PDF form provided by the OES water team or via Microsoft Forms online. The AWEP team will then review the application and request any additional information we need, perhaps more details about the timeline, more details about the partners, perhaps information about the public diplomacy objectives or potential obstacles. At this stage, we can make any revisions necessary to sort of scale down the program or identify the types of expertise needed. Once finalized, the AWEP team will follow up with post indicating our acceptance of the proposal and our desire to move forward with recruitment. Please note that while applications are reviewed and accepted on a rolling basis, we can expedite time-sensitive applications upon request. So there will be a field sort of flagging the time sensitivity or the preferred or ideal timeline for a program. And if you put something in there about how elections are coming up and you really want to do something in advance, or you know that holiday season gets really busy around a certain time, so you would need for it to happen either before or after that, those are factors that we can take into account and try to prioritize. As we mentioned earlier, we'll be sending the slide deck and application form around. So here are the 2 ways that you can submit an application just as a reference. And that's it. I know I've thrown a ton of information at you, but hopefully it's been helpful. At this time, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. I've also provided my contact info for anybody who would prefer to follow up later. Thanks again for your time and attention on behalf of the AWEP team.